Arnold Schwarzenegger had faced many challenging moments in his life, but none like this. Today he was about to sit down with Pope Francis, a man revered by millions as the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church. What did the Pope want to discuss, Mr. Schwarzenegger? Pope Francis said, warmly extending a hand. Thank you for meeting me today. There are many things I would like to discuss with you, but first tell me, do you believe in God? Arnold looked at the Pope, feeling the weight of the question. He wasn't used to speaking about faith in such an open way, but there was something about Pope Francis's gentle demeanor that made him feel comfortable enough to answer honestly. Was Arnold ready to reveal his deepest thoughts about God? Yes, Arnold said after a pause. I do believe in God. I've seen the strength of the human body, the power of determination, and the discipline needed to achieve greatness. But I don't think God is like a person in the way many people see him. I believe in a higher power, something beyond us that gives us the strength to push through barriers. Pope Francis nodded thoughtfully, his eyes kind. So you believe in God, but not in a personal God who is involved in our lives every day? Arnold nodded, his mind racing. What would the Pope say next? I don't know what you mean by personal God, but I believe that there is a force that shapes our reality. I believe that force is beyond us and that it gives us purpose. Arnold's words came out more confidently now, as if speaking his truth was freeing. Pope Francis smiled kindly. But Arnold, if God is beyond us, why is he important to you? Why believe in him at all? Arnold took a deep breath. This was the question that had always troubled him. Was there a deeper reason behind his belief? I believe in God, he said slowly, because I don't think we could achieve what we achieve without some kind of guiding force. I don't think it's about God controlling everything, but more about God providing the strength, the discipline for us. Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Pope Francis. The Pope's gaze softened. You are a man of great strength, Arnold, but sometimes strength alone can't provide us with the answers we need. Faith gives us hope. It gives us the courage to face the unknown. Could faith really give Arnold the answers he was seeking for the first time? During the conversation, Arnold felt a flicker of doubt. Was he missing something important by not believing in a more personal connection to God? The room grew quiet as he reflected on the Pope's words. The conversation had shifted now. Arnold and Pope Francis were discussing the future of humanity and the role faith could play in guiding people through the challenges ahead. Arnold's mind raced with thoughts of bodybuilding, movies, and his vision for inspiring others, but Pope Francis's words kept pulling him back to something much deeper, something more human. Do you believe that faith has a role in shaping the future? Pope Francis asked, breaking the silence. What role would faith play in shaping the future? Arnold hesitated. He wasn't sure if he truly understood the answer. I think faith can help people find meaning, but I also believe that discipline and hard work will shape the future. We have the power to change our destiny, to create a better world through determination. A purpose for us. The Pope smiled, his eyes filled with compassion. Determination is important, but it cannot replace faith. Without a guiding force, we risk losing sight of what truly matters. Arnold's mind raced. Could he really be so wrong about the importance of faith in guiding humanity? I don't disagree with you, Arnold said slowly, but I think faith needs to evolve. It needs to adapt to the changing world. We can't just rely on old beliefs to guide us through new challenges. Pope Francis nodded, but his expression was serious. Faith does evolve, but its core remains the same. It's about love, compassion, and a connection to something greater than ourselves. These are the things that will guide humanity, not just personal achievement. Arnold found himself at a crossroads. Could faith really offer something that personal success could not? Was there something beyond human understanding that could provide direction in a rapidly changing world? Faith in shaping the future. Was there something missing in his belief system that he needed to explore further? As the conversation continued, the tension between their differing viewpoints became more apparent. Arnold was driven by the logic of discipline, by the belief that human progress could be achieved through hard work and determination. The Pope, on the other hand, was rooted in faith, in the belief that humanity's true purpose could only be found by connecting with God and living according to his will. The Pope spoke softly, his voice filled with conviction. Arnold, you've done incredible things with your career, but what if the future isn't just about achievement but about understanding our place in God's plan? Arnold's brow furrowed. Was the Pope suggesting that his work had no purpose beyond progress? I don't think I understand what you mean, Arnold replied carefully. I believe in achievement. I believe in pushing people to be their best, but I don't think that means we have to abandon reason or logic. Pope Francis's eyes were kind but firm. Faith is not about abandoning reason, it's about recognizing that there is something beyond what we can see, something beyond what we can understand. It's about trust. Could Arnold ever fully trust in something beyond reason? Arnold's mind raced. The clash of their visions felt almost impossible to resolve. How could he reconcile his belief in achievement with the Pope's deep faith? Would there ever be a way to bridge the gap between the two? Beyond progress. The tension between Arnold and Pope Francis grew as the conversation deepened. Arnold felt a growing sense of unease. Was he really missing something by rejecting the idea of a personal God? Was he too focused on the physical world to understand the deeper meaning of existence? Pope Francis noticed the change in Arnold's demeanor and spoke gently. Arnold, I sense doubt in you. Faith is not a simple thing, it's a journey. It requires patience, trust, and sometimes a willingness to let go of the need for certainty. Arnold looked away, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Could faith really help him find the peace he was searching for? I've spent my life looking for answers and training, Arnold admitted, but lately I felt like something is missing. I don't know if I believe in a personal God, but maybe there is something I haven't fully understood. The Pope smiled softly as if sensing the shift in Arnold's perspective. That is the first step, Arnold. The journey begins when we admit that we don't have all the answers. Arnold nodded, but the doubt lingered. Was he really ready to take that first step into the unknown? As the conversation continued, something changed. The tension between them began to ease and a sense of shared understanding started to emerge. Arnold still didn't fully grasp the Pope's vision of faith, but he began to see that it wasn't something to be feared or rejected. Instead, it was something that could coexist with his belief in achievement. Pope Francis looked at Arnold with a warm smile. You see, Arnold, faith is not about surrendering everything to God. It's about recognizing that we are not alone in this world, that there is something greater than ourselves that gives meaning to our actions. Arnold's eyes softened. Was he beginning to understand the Pope's message? I think I understand now, Arnold said slowly. Faith is about finding meaning not just in achievement but in everything. It's about understanding that our actions have consequences and that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves. The Pope nodded, his face filled with peace. Exactly, and when we recognize that we can move forward with purpose, with love, and with faith. Peace. As the conversation came to a close, Arnold felt a deep sense of peace that he had never experienced before. He wasn't ready to embrace all of the Pope's beliefs, but something inside him had shifted. He now understood that faith wasn't just about belief in God, but about understanding that there was a purpose to everything, and that purpose was tied to something greater than himself. I think this has been the most important conversation of my life, Arnold said, his voice filled with emotion. I've spent so much time focused on what I can control, but I realize now that there's more to life than that. Pope Francis smiled kindly, his eyes filled with warmth. You're beginning to see, Arnold, the journey is just beginning. Would Arnold ever find the peace he was searching for? In the days that followed, Arnold reflected on the conversation with Pope Francis. He didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long while he felt as though he was on the right path. Maybe there was more to life than personal achievement. Maybe faith could provide the direction he had been seeking. As he walked through the halls of the Vatican one last time, Arnold felt a sense of peace. He still believed in hard work, but now he understood that true success came from understanding our place in the world and in God's plan. Would Arnold's newfound understanding change the course of his life? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: this conversation had changed him forever. He had always been driven by the pursuit of achievement, moving forward, training, changing lives with his inspiration. But now, as he walked through his life, he realized that achievement alone wasn't enough. Was it possible that all this time he had been missing something? His career, his passion, his vision for inspiring others, had they been built on a foundation that was incomplete? He didn't know yet, but he felt a change inside him, an unsettling but comforting sensation. Each day the memories of their debate lingered in his mind. Pope Francis had spoken so simply yet so profoundly about God's love, about how faith was a guiding light for humanity. Arnold had always believed in a higher power, but he had never truly understood the role of God in shaping the course of his life. He had seen the strength in the human body, the power of determination, and the grand design of training, but he hadn't seen it as part of a greater plan, as something he could trust in and surrender to. Could faith offer him the direction he had been searching for all along? Arnold had always prided himself on being independent, a champion who carved his own path, but now for the first time he began to wonder whether he had been too focused on carving that path alone, too focused on his own goals and not enough on something bigger than himself. Could he find a balance between his ambitions and faith? As the days passed, Arnold found himself spending more time in quiet reflection. He wasn't sure how to act on what he had learned from Pope Francis, but the shift in his thinking was undeniable. He had always chased after the next big role, the next goal, but now he started to wonder if true success was about something deeper, something more enduring. One afternoon, as he sat by his window watching the sun dip below the horizon, Arnold asked himself, would this newfound understanding change the course of his life? His mind raced with possibilities. Could he bring his career and vision into alignment with faith? Could he use his influence not just to inspire people with fitness but to guide others towards a greater understanding of their place in the world? The silence around him seemed to answer in its own way. Maybe the answers wouldn't come quickly, maybe this wasn't something he could solve with a single training program, but the conversation with Pope Francis had opened his eyes to the fact that faith and achievement could coexist, that they could work together to shape a better future. Humility. A few days later, while sitting with a close group of colleagues, Arnold found himself speaking differently. In the past, he would have dominated the conversation with ideas about fitness, about how his programs were pushing people forward, but now his words were measured, thoughtful, more reflective. He spoke about finding balance, about seeking purpose beyond achievement, and about being open to the idea that faith could guide the way forward. At first his colleagues were confused. Some thought he was simply going through a phase, but as Arnold continued to reflect and speak on what he had learned, they began to see something different in him. There was a calmness, a sense of understanding that hadn't been there before. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the man who had always been the driving force behind his success, was now speaking with a newfound humility. The change in him wasn't just intellectual, it was spiritual, and while Arnold didn't have all the answers, he knew that the search for them would now be as important as the pursuit of success. His relationship with faith wasn't going to be defined by a single conversation or a single moment of clarity, but it would be an ongoing journey. And so Arnold Schwarzenegger began to walk a different path. The future was still full of endless possibilities, but now for the first time he was not just walking towards achievement, he was walking towards something greater, something that transcended his own ambitions. Only time would tell how this shift in his perspective would affect the course of his life, but Arnold knew one thing for sure: he would never be the same. Change. As weeks turned into months, Arnold found himself slowly changing in ways he had never anticipated. The conversations with Pope Francis had left a lasting mark on him, one that he couldn't ignore. It wasn't just a passing thought or a fleeting idea, it was something deep within him, quietly reshaping his views and actions. Arnold had always been a man of action, but now he began to think carefully about the kind of action he wanted to take. He started to see his work in a new light. The training, the movies, the inspiration he provided, all of it was important, yes, but it wasn't the end all be all. The real question he began to ask was, how can I use my talents, my influence, for something that transcends mere achievement? His work had always been about building bodies, but now he thought perhaps the greatest thing to build was the human spirit, our capacity to love, to connect, to understand our purpose in this vast, mysterious world. In one of his meetings with his close team, Arnold brought up the idea of incorporating more purpose-driven goals into their projects. He spoke not just about physical transformation but about creating programs that could help people live better lives, not just physically but spiritually as well. What if we could build something, Arnold asked, that doesn't just change the way people look but changes the way they think about their lives? His colleagues listened intently. They had seen the change in him, the quiet reflection, the subtle shifts in his worldview, but hearing him speak like this felt different. There was a warmth to his words, an authenticity they had never seen before. For the first time they saw their leader not as someone obsessed with conquering the world, but as someone who was genuinely seeking a deeper connection to it. The discussions that followed weren't just about box office numbers or fitness trends. They delved into questions of human purpose, the need for compassion, and how inspiration could help foster a sense of unity in a fragmented world. Arnold wasn't just looking to create new programs, he was looking to create a world where people could reconnect with their humanity, where faith and achievement could coexist in a harmonious balance. He wanted to leave behind more than just a legacy of physical transformation. He wanted to leave behind a world that had learned how to value what truly matters. But even as he started to embrace this new vision, doubts lingered in his mind. Was he truly equipped to lead such a shift? Could he balance his ambitions with the quiet, humble pursuit of faith and humanity? And would people actually listen? The world wasn't always ready for change, especially when that change came from someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, a man known for his larger-than-life personality and groundbreaking achievements. Am I being foolish? He would ask himself in the quiet of his office. Is this just a phase? A new direction? But then he would think back to the conversation with Pope Francis, the wisdom in his words and the undeniable feeling that had stirred within him. The doubts, though persistent, couldn't extinguish the spark that had been ignited over time. Arnold began to weave these new beliefs into his life more deeply. His projects took on a new direction, with programs focused not just on physical fitness but on social good, initiatives aimed at helping underserved communities and creating spaces where people could find a deeper sense of meaning in their work. He made it clear to his team that success wouldn't just be measured by numbers but by the impact they made on the world around them. And still, something inside him kept pushing him forward. He was restless, driven by a desire to see his vision unfold, to see if this newfound understanding of life could really make a difference in the world. The challenges were immense. Critics questioned his sincerity. Some of his colleagues remained skeptical, unsure if this shift in mindset was simply a phase or a long-term change. But for Arnold, it wasn't about seeking validation anymore. It wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about embracing the unknown, trusting in a greater purpose, and letting faith guide him where achievement alone couldn't. He wasn't looking to be the biggest or the most successful anymore. He was looking to be something greater, a force for good in a world that desperately needed it. And as the days passed, the future seemed brighter. He had no clear answers yet, but he knew that with faith in his heart and purpose in his work, he was moving in the right direction. It was a slow process, but each step he took felt more meaningful, more aligned with the person he was becoming. He was no longer chasing after the next breakthrough to prove himself. He was living to fulfill a greater calling. Would this change in Arnold Schwarzenegger make a difference in the world? Would others follow his lead? Only time would tell. But for the first time in his life, Arnold felt a peace that was unlike any success he had ever achieved before. He wasn't just building bodies with training anymore. He was helping build the future with faith, love, and purpose, and that he realized was the true legacy he wanted to leave behind. It wasn't the movies or the championships, it was the change in the hearts of the people he inspired along the way.